mass grave containing the remains of 10 bodies has been discovered in Myanmar's Rakhine State. It comes after two Reuters journalists were detained. They were reporting on the military crackdown targeting Rohingya Muslims in the same area. They have not been seen since. Meanwhile, Myanmar's government has banned a UN investigator from setting foot in the country. Yang Hee Lee was due to visit next month to assess human rights and alleged abuses against Rohingya Muslims. She says the government's lack of cooperation must mean something awful is happening there. Hundreds of thousands of Rohingya Muslims have left for Bangladesh, and according to Human Rights Watch, more than 350 villages in Rakhine State have been partially or completely destroyed since August. Here's a before picture. Here is the after, where you could see some of the buildings burned out. Phil Robertson is the Deputy Asia Director for Human Rights Watch. He joins me now live from Bangkok, Thailand. Phil, thank you so much for joining us. A lot of news lines coming out of Myanmar this day. First, really want to hear your reaction to the investigation into the mass grave found in Rakhine State and whether you believe that there's a link between this mass grave and the disappearance of those two Reuters journalists in Myanmar.
Well, we are very concerned about the finding of this mass grave. We want to get access to that area. It's important that international monitors be allowed to get in there because the Burmese military has a long history of cover-up when it comes to investigating crimes that they may have committed. We saw, in fact, that the Burmese military last month denied that there had been any human rights abuses in their entire campaign over the last several months in northern Rakhine State. So clearly they're not a credible interlocutor and they're not a credible investigator, and we need to get in there. But we don't have any information about who might be in that grave, how they ended up there. What is quite clear is that there was burning of the Indian village that we're looking at, and there was also the arrest of these two Reuters correspondents under the Official Secrets Act, but we have not seen them. They have not been produced before a judge, and we believe that they have been being held because they were receiving documents from police about the things that have been going on in northern Rakhine State. That was their beat. That was the thing they were working on, and that, I think, is why they have disappeared.
Now, Human Rights Watch has identified 40 villages that have been burned since October. 4 of those villages burned after November the 23rd, and that's a significant date because that was when the repatriation deal between Myanmar and Bangladesh was already signed. So what does this say about Myanmar and its intentions?
Well, we think that this repatriation deal looks like a publicity stunt. We understand why it was done. Myanmar is trying to show to the international community that it's part of the solution, not the source of all the problems. But in fact, when you have the military burning out villages on one hand at the same time that the diplomats are signing deals, it indicates that there's not a whole lot of trust there. Our view is that it's far too early for anybody to be going back from those border encampments where the Rohingya are. And in fact, I don't think the Rohingya will go back at this time. There's no protection guarantees for them. There's no involvement by the UN Refugee Agency to help protect them. Simply, it's a deal between two governments that were, for their own reasons, wanting to get something on paper so that they could show that they were doing something.
Yeah, there is this deficit of trust. I mean, now we have the UN Special Rapporteur on Myanmar, top UN official Yang Hee Lee. She has been denied access to the country. Do you consider this proof that the government of Myanmar has something to hide?
Well, I think it certainly points that direction. I think that her statement speaks for itself. But I think more worryingly, it also shows that this government seems to be tilting back to the bad old past of the Burmese military government, which would frequently deny access to UN special rapporteurs or UN agencies. This is also the same government that has continually denied access to the fact-finding mission, which is a special group of experts that were appointed by the UN Human Rights Council earlier this year, who have repeatedly asked to get into Burma and have not been able to. So, it seems that the government of Burma and the military are sort of acting like ostriches sticking their head in the sand, trying to ignore the fact that there's an increasing body of evidence that we have and that others in the international community are pointing to say that crimes against humanity have been committed here and there needs to be action taken.
Right. So what should that action be? I mean, what should be the international response here? What kind of pressure should governments around the world apply on Myanmar to open up and to own up to the Rohingya crisis?
Well, we want various different governments, the United States and others, to impose targeted sanctions against those found responsible. This is senior military officials, first of all, but then also if there are civilian officials involved, they should also be targeted. That would be travel bans, that would be asset seizures, that would be preventing them from participating in the international economy through banking restrictions. We want a global arms embargo that targets the Burma army, that makes them an international pariah, that basically causes a loss of respect for them by the other militaries around the world. And ultimately, we want those accountable for these atrocities to be taken to the International Criminal Court in The Hague.